can get started on the second segment of the show where we talk about the Knicks filing a protest. And I took a longer break just to make sure I had all the details of this protest on my computer. So recently, the Knicks matched up against the Houston Rockets in Houston, and the game was really close. It was so close that it resulted into Jalen Brunson needing to hit a game-tying shot to send the game into overtime, which he did. So the score was tied 103-103, and Houston had one more possession to essentially take the lead and be able to win the game in regulation and not need to play in overtime. But late in the game, Aaron Holiday grabbed the ball at around, I'd say, 28 feet away from the basket and needed to fade away. So he chucked up a three and he kicked his feet out. Now, Jalen Brunson was in the area, and so he jumped trying to contest the shot. But unfortunately, because he kicked his feet out, it drew contact. And the refs called a defensive foul, and that resulted in 3 free throws coming in from Aaron Holiday, which he ended up making 2 out of the 3, and there was no time left in regulation, and therefore the Houston Rockets won the game 105-103. And now, obviously, Jalen Brunson, he jumped trying to get a contest, and this was called for an offensive foul. It resulted in 3 free throws. Not a way that you want to lose if you are the Knicks, especially against a bad team or a mediocre team like Houston. And, it was just a really bad loss for the Knicks. And the refs later admitted after the game that the call was incorrect, and that shouldn't have been a defensive foul, but rather an offensive foul for kicking his feet out. Now, it was so bad that this caused the Knicks to file a protest towards the NBA, and their hope in the protest, as it's highlighted here, says that they hope to play a quarter of overtime against Houston to determine who wins the game and who gets the win added onto for this season. Now, the last time, it says a little bit more in this article, the last time a protest was upheld was in December of 2007, and it was during a Heat versus the Hawks game, where Shaq was incorrectly ruled to have 6 fouls when he only had 5. And the game was resumed on March 8th, 2008. So the game wasn't even resumed in the same season as the call happened. And not only that, but I'm pretty sure Shaq left in free agency after that year from the Heat over to the Suns. And yeah, it says right here, Shaq was he was traded to the Suns right before then. So there wasn't really much success in this protest, and to top it all off, the Hawks ended up winning the game anyway. So again, there was no need for this protest because the Heat ended up losing. The Heat lineup wasn't even the same from when the protest originally happened. So what gives? Why even bother to do a protest like this? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever because the lineup wasn't even the same. Shaq wasn't on the same roster. Literally the second best player for the team wasn't even on the roster at the time. So how can you confidently say, "Oh, let's replay the game," without having the exact same team on your roster? That just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I don't really see a reason to waste time on protests like this, especially if I were the Knicks, because there's just no need for that. The Knicks have a very dominant team right now, and they are in striking distance of making a deep playoff run. So this loss should just be taken as a bump in the road, honestly, because really you're gonna waste your time protesting a meaningless game against a team that's not even going to make the play-in. Like, Houston's not even going to make the play-in. And granted, this loss should have been taken as, like, why are we losing to the Houston Rockets? Like, why are the Knicks losing to the Houston Rockets? That's what this loss should be. It should be a learning lesson for a lot of these players, because, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And, like, because of this, because of all of these protests, it's just another distraction, and it takes away from, like, the importance of these games. It takes a lot of this value away, and I just don't understand why would the Knicks just waste their time with all of this nonsense when they could just be trying to focus on the regular season at hand and continue their phenomenal season. Like, they're not even healthy at this rate, and they're still worried about this meaningless game that doesn't necessarily determine anything in terms of playoff standings for the Houston Rockets, nor does it determine the standings for the Knicks, because they're going to go, once they become healthy and after the All-Star break, they're going to be great. They're going to be absolutely fantastic in the rest of these games. Not something that the Knicks should worry about. Now, the NBA, on the other hand, they probably should take into account these refs. Like, these refs haven't been everyone's favorite this year. In all leagues, actually. In the NFL and even in the NBA, they have not been the favorite whatsoever. Now, the refs, they got the call wrong in an NFL. It was so bad that in the Lions game against the Cowboys, if you guys can remember that game, the refs got a call so bad that it ended up leading to that referee crew getting banned from reffing a game. So, with that in mind, if that same thing happens to the NBA for the playoffs, it probably should. Like, it should happen right now, because they should be trying to figure out what kind of refs are much more reliable and which ones make much more competent calls. Because I understand how in the heat of the moment it's not easy to make the right call, but there are refs that have the ability to do that, and I understand that it's part of the game, but bad calls shouldn't necessarily be a part of the game. Like, if we have the ability to replay it and get a call right, but we still choose not to get the call right, what's the point in even having a replay? And it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, not only that, I also don't want to see a bunch of teams now just randomly coming in to challenge a bunch of these games. I do not want to see that at all. And I hope that this Knicks game just doesn't get upheld and no other team decides to challenge other previous games that happened in the season or future games that happen in the season, because it's unneeded. It's a waste of time. Maybe this should be taken as some things to discuss in the film room, like why were the Rockets so close? That is the most important thing that the Knicks should take. That's the most important takeaway that the Knicks should come out of this game. Not that, oh, we were robbed of this game. Even if that were true. But the game shouldn't have been close to begin with for the New York Knicks. And I personally think that the Knicks are going to be fine, even with this loss under their belt. And this game won't be upheld. It'll be just like pushed under the rug. They don't need to talk about this game anymore. And it's whatever. It's like, it's water under the bridge. But with that, that's the end of the second segment. So tune in for the third segment, where I give a recap of all of the games that went down on February 13th on that night. So tune in after this short break as we go into the third segment.